Okay, I wanted to make this just to kind of show what we've done, what we got done, which is not a whole lot to the truck, and kind of go over some of the stuff we're going to do. We did get the starter on down there, got it shimmed, got it adjusted. My homemade oil pump primer. Right now I've got 2050 VR1 in it, but I'm going to dump it and put 1030 in it before I run it because the 2050, unless it's extremely warm out like up in the 90s, it's just a little too thick to run a new motor. I'm just going to dump it, put the 1030 in it, and then I might even dump a bottle of additive in it, uh, just zinc additive. And then I will run it, bring it up, cycle the temperature cycle a few times, and then uh, probably just dump it and refill it with 1030 again, and we'll see how that works. But normally I run 2050 in these older motors, these older blocks. With the high zinc stuff, I run the VR1. I buy it through O'Reilly's through my son that works up there. I get a discount. Not much on oil, but I do get a little bit of a discount. Currently, the only holding us up is these spacers. I could have swore I bought them. We went through all the parts, they're not there. So I got to get a hold of Hard Marine, go online, buy these. They're a 3/4 inch spacer. They're aluminum, billet aluminum to go in here. I got the gaskets, the copper gaskets from Percy's, but I did not. I could have again swore I bought the damn spacers, but I guess I didn't. We're going to take and wrap the headers. I've thought about it. You know, they do look nice and everything, but for heat issues and the fact it's going to have a fiberglass hood on it, I'm going to go ahead and wrap them. Each turbo is going to have a heat shield on the exhaust housing. But with it this close and that master cylinder being aluminum and plastic, I'm going to go ahead and wrap them and get that done. I've got to figure out something a little better than this over here on this side. I don't know if I'll just add another piece of diamond plate and wrap it with this so-called heat wrap, or and do something different completely. I'm just going to leave that vacuum gauge there. I had that there for when I had the old motor in it, just to watch vacuum, because I really had very little. That's why I had a canister on the brake booster in the old setup. Uh, Probably sometime coming up. And my thing is, I have a 3-year-old grandson that we're more or less taking care of 24/7. Between a daughter's work schedule and school, it's so hard to keep him, and running back and forth, so he just stays here. And unless the wife's here to keep an eye on him, I don't get much time to do anything, which that's going to change because I've got to get this put together. This engine just can't keep setting like this. There's the intercooler. That little radiator in the earlier videos, it's right here. Now the cap that comes on it, this is actually a radiator for a air-to-water intercooler radiator is what this is. I've already checked it. I know it'll hold 16 psi of pressure. Plus I talked to the people when I bought it. It's got a little foreign car radiator cap. This cap that's on it's only good to, I think, it says 0.9, but I have no clue. I'm going to get a 15-pound cap for it. But what this is going to do is I'm going to come out of here. Come in here at a -10 line into this. I'm going to come out of the bottom of it, come out, -10 also, but I'm going to use them little manifolds I got and run 2 -4 lines to the wastegates to pump cold water through them after it goes through here to cool it down, pump it through, come back out. I'll dump it back in to the top radiator hose. So basically the water neck's going to sit here. I'll have a T that screws on female onto the water neck -16 with the male, and it has a -10 coming off the side. So when I come out of the wastegates, we'll come back in to the return line, which is coming out of the bottom, the cold line. It'll come over and go into here. I'll run it over, and then I'll bring it back. It's kind of hard to understand, but yeah. And it should flow with the top hose and go back to the radiator without a problem. But yeah, the hot water will come out of the block, come into here, come out of the bottom, and this has got 2 rows of 1-inch tubes in it. It's 12 by 12. Again, come out of the bottom, come around, I'll feed, and just basically it's going to run in, will circulate through the wastegates and then back out. Or I might bring them up and dump them back into the top up here, into that top hose, so we don't have it just sitting here stale, running in circles. I don't know yet. We're going to have to see how the water flow works. But it should go right back and back out. When the thermostat opens, it'll go out with that water. And yeah, I'm going to run a thermostat in it, probably a 180. 160 is too cool for something on drive on the street. You can't get the moisture out of the motor at 160. Plus, the Holley doesn't go into learn mode till it gets above 160 degrees. So I'll probably run a 180. That's what I run in everything usually, unless it's a daily, and then I run a 196 or a 192 degree thermostat in. So, but I'm going to use a 1-inch spacer plate here so I can pull vacuum to go to the 2 blow-off valves, which I got 2 of them. I'm going to use both of them. Pretty much that's it. I'm using a balancer from Summit Racing. It's a 7-inch rather than an 8-inch because this is all internally balanced now. So I just need a neutral balance balancer. I've already got the pulley, the alternator bracket, get all that mounted. We'll get the fueling the Super Sniper set up and everything, get the distributor in because there's things you have to do with the distributor to index it. There's a procedure you go through where you roll the motor back to 50 before, and with that Hall effect distributor, it's got a little LED indicator, and there's a process you got to go through. And I'll explain more of that when we put it in and make a video of us doing all that. But yeah, all the radiator lines are going to be -16. They'll come down, run along where the motor mount's at, catch the frame, and go all the way to the back. Back here to the radiator, and like I showed you, I did this. It don't leak, so hopefully it don't can leak any again. It ain't been banged around or anything. But just basically -16, 90, bring them over somewhere. And I already had this big ass hole where the radiator used to be. I'll just punch a hole through this aluminum plate and run them through there. Battery's probably going to get moved. And here, I've got excuse the mess. It'll all get vacuumed out. There's the coil. That's the Sniper EFI coil. I've got the MSD firewall pass-through for it. I just got to drill a 1-inch hole and get that in. That's the fuse box for the truck itself. I have another fuse box that I'm going to use just for the fuel injection and the ignition and everything. It's very simple. You know, I'm not, again, trying to be super high-tech, but it works. And the fuse box, I changed the wire from the, I don't know where the old wire went, but it was smaller to a 6-gauge wire, AWG 6-gauge wire to feed it. And then I've got another wire run up in the battery to feed the other one, which will go over here somewhere along with the CDI box. So, and then I've got another seat like that one, only it's got a black cover. It's going to go over here. I'm just going to get some vinyl and wrap the door bars and the hoop. I already painted these out here. All this crap's going to come off. And then the final thing will be put the hood on it, because my son's promised to buy my hood, 6-inch hardwood cow hood, and then call Safelite out. I got a friend that works for Safelite. Have him come out and put a new windshield in it where I cracked it. So, because this truck has had the VIN reassigned to it. There's no VIN plate down here no more because it corroded all up. Really, really bad. So the truck comes from Missouri, and the VIN's right there. And then I've got a sticker that goes here from Kansas where they run it, check it. I gotta put on there. Yet the truck's tagged and insured, has been the whole time it's been sitting. But I'm hoping to get that little deal worked out. Electric water pump, of course. The alternator's going to set right here. It's an ICT billet bracket that I bought to set it right here so it's out of the way of the turbo. The only concern I got is when we put the back together with the 4-inch drop springs, if it sets lower than it did before, I'm going to lower the front at least 2 inches with spindles. I just don't want a problem with when the tire's turned and the turbo's hanging down here, the tire hitting the turbo. That's the only worry I have right now. Hopefully it don't. If it does, I can turn them up, but at that point they're going to stick through the hood, and I really don't want that. But if it has to be done, we'll just have to cut the hood and make some kind of trim ring for them. I really don't want to, but hey. And then, of course, the exhaust is going to come off. Just go back and 45 out through the fenders. And I'm going to start at 3.5 and then bump it to 4 when it exits the fenders. As far as the wastegates, as it is now, they're going to set like right here, just off the valve cover. So that means the downpipe's going to go down. So I'll either just run something out and down the frame, or I'll bring it back underneath and bring it back and then kick it up into the existing, so they're like a scavenge back out the exhaust. But it should do pretty good. So, believe it or not, I read a build where a guy used a Gen 5 block. It's got Speedmaster heads on it. About the same cam I'm running, but it's a solid roller. Except he's got aluminum rods in his, which on the street, aluminum rods don't really work. And I'm going to drive it on the street, cruise it with my grandkids as they come along and get older, have fun with my son. But pretty much, other than this 4-bolt block, he says that thing's making 1,800 using a GM block. So, don't know whether I want to believe that. It looks like a GM block he's using. You know, ways to tell is like up around the front and so forth. But it's got a fuel pump boss on it and everything else. The guy's got it in a Chevelle. He builds engines, so I don't know. But this should be fine. You know, the most we're going to run is 10 pounds on it. The gates are set up to run like between 8 and 10 now. They got a 4.3 pound spring in them. So, well, they don't yet. I've got to take them apart because I want a video taking those apart. But I don't know if I ever showed any rest of this, but of course, Caltrac, new bushings, new bolts up there. Just OEM shackle. Everything's new in the springs, all new bolts, and I put new bushings in the frame. That was a little bit of fun getting them out. And of course, this chassis is a 98. It's not a square body chassis. It's a 98 chassis. And I use those because they're boxed further back. I just think they're a stouter chassis than the early ones. And of course, I boxed in the back side of the spring hangers and added all that bracing that's there all the way up to the transmission cross member. So it's a little more rigid, a little stiffer. Everything's a mess. A messy garage is a busy garage, but this one ain't being busy. And then back here in the old rough part of the garage, there's the old setup right there. That's the engine that was in the truck. It's just sitting back here chilling out. We come back, turn it over about once a week, turn it over so the springs don't, valve springs don't stay compressed in one spot. But we got it all plugged up where nothing, mice or nothing can get into it. But he's going to pull it back out of this truck, and we're going to put the truck aside. He's got him a G-body car, and we'll make video of that. But he bought him a real nice, clean G-body car to stuff all of this in to play with. And then I guess he's going to build he's wanting to build a small block and pro charge it and put in it. Which that's fine. My son's got the money to buy all that stuff. Sadly, I don't. So, it's took a lot of work to get to where this is at. I've probably got $9,000 tied up just in this, not counting the transmission. The transmission was another, I want to say, a little over $2,000 for that FTI level 4.5 turbo 400. So, and then the converter was another damn near $900 from FTI. So, but that's it. Ain't got nothing else done. There's a video of that when I put it together. I did cut off, I think I showed it before, but I cut off, put a steel plug in there, welded it inside out where the speed sensor went. I wanted to clean that housing up because it's kind of scaly, but dude, I flap disced it, and it just, we just painted it with Core 19. And then here's the driver's side of the cab, which I've probably shown before. Just pulled that center section out like I always had, except this time I put all the gauges, including the tach, in there. There's a fuel level gauge in there, but I'm not going to use the same fuel cell. After seeing all the issues that Billy Hoskins had with the same cell he's got, which is sitting up there, with it splitting down the corners, and I had mine mounted on rubber, and I actually took valve springs and cut them in half and put under it to give it something to kind of rock on. And I noticed that one of the tabs, it's starting to crack up it. So I'm just going to use a plastic cell, probably from RCI or somebody. And that's the bed to that truck that's sitting back there. But, yeah. So, and I ordered a set of spring plates from Calvert Racing because I noticed both of mine are bent. I don't know how. I only torqued them to 70 foot-pounds on the U-bolts, but it was $60 a piece for the new spring plates. But I got an old one here, and like I seen in an earlier video, see how them holes are slotted? Those are slotted out big enough to use on a 3 1/4 housing. But why I got new ones is, see how that one's bent? I mean, yeah, I probably could have used it, but we just went ahead and bought 2 new ones and keep them for spares. And I got a set of Caltrax for 88 to 98 that's had the flip kit done on the rear end too, off of that GMC, but the plates weren't the same. So there it is. I'm gonna get off of here and go back inside. Wife's on her way home. It's Thursday. And yep. And for anybody asks, I'm gonna run it on C16. I'm not gonna run it on E85, E95, or methanol. I'm old school. I'm gonna run it on C16. Like I said, I'm not trying to set the world on fire. If this comes out making anywhere between 800 and 1,000 horsepower, I'll be happy. That's plenty enough in this little truck. Like I said, I don't plan on dedicatedly drag racing it. I might take and race it. I may not. It just whatever happens to come along. So I did not build this to intentionally take it out and beat on it and tear it up. So, but my son said since we give him the 540, he said, if we blow it up, we'll just put that 540 in there. And we'll build us another one, bigger, badder. This time we'll go with a dark block and everything. And reuse everything we can off this one. But, YOLO, you only live once. Well, that may be true, but them hits to the wallet they need to happen once. But yeah, I just wanted to share that too. We put that in there last night, me and him did, in about 30-45 minutes. And I'm not using the center supports on the grill, so I just cut them off, and that fit right down in there nicely. So it's out of the way. I'll just put a cap over this and the hose clamp, cap it off. I don't plan on using it. I might fill it here when we fill it up, because I plan on filling it here, possibly filling it before I drop thermostat in, and of course I'll fill it back there. And the radiator's more than higher than the engine, so I'll drill a small hole in my thermostat like I always do, let it belch the air out, and it should be fine. I've never had an issue once I've done that. So I think I've bored you all long enough. You get tired of looking at this thing, you want to hear it make noise, I'm trying. So I will say this, it will be up and running by the 1st of June, regardless. If I got to bring my grandson out here and strap him to something or hang him off the engine hoist and let him spin in circles, you know. He's 3 going on 4. He's getting to the point now where he knows yes, no, and knows what to do and what not to do. He just has a little issue with taking screwdrivers and stuff and working on the side of the truck, you know. So, anyhow. But that being said, I'm going to get off here. Everybody keep working on your stuff, making videos. And everybody be safe, man. With this virus, again, that's going around, please, please be safe. You know, you don't know what this crap's going to do to people, and, you know, especially the little kids and the elderly and people that have health issues, especially you got high blood pressure, they say. You know, just be careful. You know, I've got MS and high blood pressure. My wife's an RN. You know, she's maybe around it or not around it. But when that woman comes home, dude, clothes come off, they go in the washer, she hits the shower, she don't come around nobody. She Lysols the car and everything, so... And she won't even let me leave the house now. Honest to God, I cannot leave the house. I'm staying here, and the grandson's staying in here. But be safe, everybody. Look forward to everybody's videos. Warm weather's coming. See all the cool stuff everybody's done over the winter. Later.